right, guys, here we are to talk about the movie The Jungle Book, the 1942 version.
How did this happen, Stefan?
I was at the thrift shop, and I go often, and I was looking at their movies, and I happened to see this, and I looked at it, and I was like, huh. I've never seen that version before,
Yep.
and I put it back down. And then I walked around the store, and I was like, you know what? I think I need that.
It's a sign.
And I went back and I picked it up, and I get a couple movies every week, and I messaged you saying, hey, pick a number between 1 and 6 or something.
Yep, and we have them.
And you picked the one that was corresponding to 1942 is The Jungle Book.
So you sent me a picture of the box art or whatever, and
Yes.
I saw Jungle Book, and I saw live action. I go, oh, it's like an old Jungle Book. This is like the thing before, because I know and love that Disney movie, and I
Yep.
can go into this and I can compare them, and this will just be like, the live action one everyone forgot, like there was some other Wizard of Oz thing or whatever, like old movie stuff. That's fine or whatever. Then when I get the file that you've uploaded, it says 1942 at the end, and I go, they didn't make movies in 1942. This will be like black and white and have no sound or whatever. And it was slightly better than that, but it was still old.
It was very impressive as a movie, just by nature of how old and what it is.
The scope of it.
So
yeah.
there's not sets. They're as far as I can tell just in the woods.
They're just there
filming this,
and those are just animals.
and they're just animals. Lots of animals.
So
are in
many
this movie.
animals.
The only animals that were fake in the whole movie were 2 snakes and an alligator or a crocodile. I believe they call it.
I was going to correct you.
And
but yes,
but other than that, and honestly, why those ones are fake and the other ones aren't, it's not even that because he's next to tigers, he's next to fucking wolves, a panther, all kinds of shit is all he's and there's stunts that the actual performer is doing. It was a ridiculous movie. He's riding ox in a stampede and then jumps off to close a door. There are some ridiculous scenes in this movie.
When I think about stuff like this, because you have big budget, you have low budget, you have no budget. This to me is pre-budget. Any number that you would come up with to quantify how much money was spent to make this wouldn't even make sense in modern terms. The world was so different that all these animals and extras
World War
and everything.
II, and there are hundreds of people in this movie.
Yeah. No, it's crazy because you have so many people, so many animals, so much stuff happening. Those are just trees that are on fire.
They burn the forest.
There's no. I think you're right. There's essentially no sets. There's some indoor stuff.
Because if there are sets, some of the part that I was like, oh, this must be a set. They're then riding an elephant through on a tracking shot for a long time, and I'm like, if this were a set, how huge is this set?
I think some of the interiors, the Cave of Wonders and the
yes,
and the
some
stuff,
things
some
were
of that
probably
stuff's
built.
probably soundstage, but soundstage on the scale of a Cleopatra movie soundstage, right? Where you're
it's epic.
oh, what? Yeah,
I should have Googled more about this. I'm sure there's information about it.
Yeah.
Even the DVD we watched was not a clean transfer. It was clearly some film reel-to-reel converter.
We had some waviness happening.
Yeah, there was burns and stuff.
And little marks and stuff.
But
like
honestly,
that.
for being 1942, it looked fine. It sounded fine. The acting had
it
that
did not
oldie.
sound fine.
For
I'm so
1942, this sounded fine.
Yes.
We were using fucking mics that have the little slits in them and
it was
Johnny.
No, yeah, it was so and this is one of my bullet points at the end or whatever, but now it's come up here in the beginning. Sound design. I have a lot of trouble watching movies before I guess digital or at least whatever produced sound design or something like that. It sounds like every line is dubbed. There's music roaring in and I can't hear what's going on. It sounds fake and weird to me.
Well, because every line
it's
is
a psychological
in
thing.
quotes dubbed because it's all recorded separately.
I know. So he's screaming and it doesn't match his mouth or whatever, and it really takes me out of it. I can put it aside, but it's always there, lurking in my brain. I fell asleep twice trying to watch this.
I had to watch this in 2 goes as well.
Yes. So
and it honestly, this movie, it's an hour and 45 minutes.
Oh my
it's
God.
4 movies.
Okay, so
because there's clear endings and beginnings that keep happening.
There's movements. No, after I finally struggled through it and stayed laid awake, I just put it on again in the background at like 1.5 speed or whatever.
Okay.
Just because I'm like, I've missed things. Things would happen. Like, that's what I mean. Like, even a movie this bad made today with like digital sound and digital editing, where stuff can be like exactly put into certain whatevers, right? It like keeps me in like a, it's like a different thing where like in movies like this, I'm like, is that the same guy? Wait, why are we here? Did I miss something? What's going on? Why would he say that? Wait, but didn't this already happen? Wait, I have to rewind. Like, what's happening? Like, something's wrong with my brain, or maybe right with my brain, that I can't like get into stuff. So there was like, throughout history, it's been slowly getting maybe better or like different or whatever you want to call it, to the point where like there are movies even in like the middle of time where like The Wizard of Oz or even like the old Star Wars or whatever. And I've singled out the sound design as like the single biggest like difference that like smacks me in the face, where I'm like, whoa, I can't do this or whatever. This was a chore.
This I felt like it was a chore, but not the sound. I don't think was the reason that hurt me. I thought the sound for what it was fine, because we see movies that came out like in the last couple years by these like shitty indie products, and they sound like in the same ballpark as this. So when you add the fact that this thing is like fucking 80 years old, you're like, oh,
no, and like they didn't do like, it isn't like they didn't do a good job. It's like it's a product of its
the time itself is what your issue is.
It's like going to like a museum and seeing certain styles of paintings where you're like, who would ever look at this? What is this?
Yeah,
what are you doing?
Okay, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
For me though, it was mainly that it didn't have an A to B style movie.
No.
So I'm probably gonna miss parts, but the broad outline of what happens in this movie is they're building a city in the middle of the jungle, the first time ever, as far as they know. And during the building of this, their young son wanders away. And when they go to find him, a tiger kills the boy's father, and the boy just kind of never is found. He ends up in a wolf's cave. He is raised by wolves.
A story that might be familiar to you.
Because he was raised by wolves, he has the ability to like know all about the jungle, and he can talk to all the animals. Yeah. Some of the animals, through hoots and hollers, howls, and what have you. Other ones speak English. Or pretty much just snakes.
Or he has like telepathy or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So from this point, he then is in a great battle with the tiger. The tiger didn't get him as a child, and it wants him. It chases him. He gets away by swimming and ends up outside this village, which is now a booming village. It's been like 17 years. He goes in there like butt-ass naked. Did you catch this? He's totally naked in the beginning of this movie.
I thought he had a loincloth on.
No. When the movie first starts and he touches the fire and he like jumps like over this thing, like I was like, did I just see a dick? And then like. I went back.
Was that a dick?
I was like, he was naked.
Did we see his dick?
It's the quality of the film is such that like he could be wearing a skin colored
I thought he was wearing
G-string or something.
I thought he was wearing like a burnt sienna loincloth, and it flapped up when he jumped out.
I watched it again, and
okay.
I'll show you a freeze frame.
Sure.
Not in this because
we gotta enhance. We gotta zoom in.
There's really no enhancing because of how old this movie is.
It just makes the pixels bigger. They're still the same pixels. Yeah, I know.
But I was like, what the hell am I looking at? And then very quickly they surround him and they wrap him in a cloth.
Okay.
So like that enhanced my I think he is naked.
It was a different time. He could have been naked.
He's a jungle boy. Where did he get clothes from? But then, so he meets these people. He meets the lady who is his mother, who they even say, I think that's your son. And she goes, oh, no, my son was a fat-faced boy. This is not my son. And I was like, what?
And they're like, bitch, how would he be soft and plump? He's been running around in the jungle for 12 years. And then, first of all, 12 years. He was a baby, and now it's 12 years later.
Was it 12 or 17?
They said 12.
Oh, I thought it was 17.
They said 12 that I can recall.
Maybe it is 12.
But they should have said 17 or 20. Or something.
When you're raised by the jungle, you're raised tough and hard.
Yeah.
So he meets this lady, and she then says like, "But I will raise him, whatever, blah blah blah." And
it
goes from there that like there's another guy who like hates him for like no reason, it seems. He likes that guy's daughter. It's like a Romeo and Juliet story.
Yes. Okay. Should we talk about each of these things as you run through them, or do you want to run through everything and then we go back?
I feel like I'm already forgetting things that happen. Yeah. So it's like, is that right from that moment there? Is that when he takes the daughter to the
Let's take a
city?
step back because
sure.
When he shows up, some random dude is like, Masande, I think this is your son from like
Yes,
whatever, who
out of the
you know,
fucking blue.
who was stolen, so many years ago, and I'm like, and then I'm immediately, we're like, 6 minutes in or something, and I'm like, stolen? Didn't that kid wander off? If they had seen the wolves like herding him away, then wouldn't they have been
He
like, the
wandered into their
wolves took
cave.
him? I thought he wandered off. Why are they saying stolen? Why do they think he returned? What's going on? And she's like, oh no, or like whatever. But then like very shortly after that, they have a whole like thing, and she's like, you could also call me mother or whatever. Like there's so many back and forths about
Well,
like,
it
you're no
seems
son
like
of
she
mine, you
concedes
are
and
my
says, like,
son.
I'll raise him regardless. But then by
Yeah.
the end, she's like, he has always been my son. And I'm like,
But then almost immediately, for a movie that is so long to like play so loose with this, to then almost immediately be like, oh no, like the jungle is your mother and all that stuff. Like there's so many things. I think that we should take a like quick moment to say, you probably know The Jungle Book from Disney.
Yeah.
Right? You know the songs, the bare necessities, right? This has none of that, and this is an hour and 45-minute movie where The Jungle Book that you know and love happens in like the first like 50 minutes. And then there's a whole, because he kills Shere Khan like in like the middle of this movie.
Real
and
quick,
then there's an entire
if
other
I
like
can
hour.
interject
Yeah.
with him killing Shere Khan,
Right.
He goes to the Great Snake, which looks like an anaconda or something in the middle of the woods, and he's like, Great Snake or whatever. How would I kill him? He doesn't like the water. And I'm like, okay,
Not true.
all right, that.
Not true. But it was the 40s. We didn't know about tigers
Yeah,
yet.
tigers swim all the time. But let's flip now to what we have. They lure him in a way that he's jumping into the water, and you can see the great anaconda dude is like in the water, and I'm like, okay, so is he gonna choke him down
gonna
there?
help?
Like, what's gonna happen?
Yeah.
And then I was unclear as if he ever did anything. Was he just there to watch front row? Did he help at all?
I didn't
it was
notice
clearly
him in
a
that
stuffed
scene.
tiger just in the water he was spinning with because the arms never stopped moving.
Yeah.
And then earlier when the tiger kills the father, it turns into like a dog. Did you notice?
Oh, okay. That's how they
Like
did that.
it's like a dog in an outfit or something. Because I'm
Sure.
like, that tiger got like 1/8 the size.
It's a dog in a Halloween suit. Okay.
But those were the only times that I was like, okay, what's happening here? Because everything else is like a legitimate animal.
Yeah, I remember after he like quote unquote killed Shere Khan, I was like, is their tiger just laying there, or is that a fake tiger now? I couldn't tell at that point.
I think that was a stuffed tiger,
Still like a
like
stuffed
a
one laying there.
dead, like an actual tiger that had died.
That'll do it. Yeah. Yeah, I wonder if
Because
this is
he
so,
was holding a stuffed tiger's head, like when he was doing the
Yeah.
I killed Shere Khan.
I wonder if this is so old that animals literally died during the making of this movie.
That might have been the same Shere Khan.
If we watched animals die here. Okay, but I just wanted to point that out because you're going to quickly get into plot points that are completely outside of any human being's knowledge
yes.
of Jungle Book.
Almost
this
immediately.
Is not, and there's a framing device of a storyteller telling some young white lady about all this.
Yes.
right.
For no reason.
Who ends up being the
main bad guy.
the bad guy hunter.
Yes.
And then she's like, well, what about all these loose ends? And he's like, that is for another time. And then it's over.
I
And
don't
you're
know
like,
if there's
what is
another. There
happening?
might be more.
There
of these,
better be
though.
more. We gotta watch them all. Okay.
I would.
But getting back to the plot, right? He's
Okay.
in the village. She's
So
like,
he-
I'll raise you
he's-
as my son.
He gets
Go to
the
the
lady
thing.
takes
Yeah.
him in. It's a little sometime later. He's adapted to the ways of their village. He's like herding steers and doing things using what he knows. He's like, Mom, I need a tooth, and you're like, you have teeth. Fuck you. And he's
That
like,
whole conversation. Oh my
and
god.
what he knows as a tooth is like a knife. He wants a knife. The mother gives him money. He goes to buy a knife. He buys the knife from the father of the daughter of the bad guy, who's like doesn't like him for no reason.
No, he buys it from the bad hunter. I thought. Guy,
Yeah,
right?
that's
okay.
the father of the girl.
Okay, but you said the father of the daughter of the same like that. Okay.
I said it in
All right.
roundabout, but so our
No,
bad guy.
but that was great because he's like he's like put down the knife, I'll shoot you, and then they talk a little, and he's like, wait, if you have a knife, would you like leave? And he's like, well, yeah, I have stuff to do in the jungle. And he goes,
Yes.
okay, take the knife.
and you think he's just
I
going to
like
give
that.
it to him, like,
Yeah.
oh, just take it.
But
Get
he
out.
still takes the money. It's
and
hard.
well, no, even worse than that, he's like, for you, 2 gold pieces or whatever. And he goes, I have 3. That's more than 2, and gives him all the gold pieces. His
he
mother's
goes-
a poor lady, just gave
And
away
he
her
goes-
money.
And he's like, yes, 3 is more than 2. Like he hates him. He's like, oh, you insufferable jungle twat.
Yeah. But
Yeah, it's
he gets a
amazing.
nice knife, and like he's like, all right, this guy's gonna be gone. Then he like goes out with that guy's daughter, and he's like,
Okay.
oh, I'll show you at night.
I'm very sorry, but so this happens 30 minutes in.
Sure.
I wrote down in all caps, so it's like he wants a tooth knife, and then I wrote in all caps, he knows the bear that's a rug.
Yes.
Kill me. It's only been 30 minutes. Kill me.
That is Baloo's cousin. He went missing 6 months ago.
We went fishing together, and there's a whole thing. It was literally, that's when I checked. Well, okay, it's obviously been at least 2 hours, so this has to be almost over. He's gonna go back to the jungle now with this tooth and then fight the tiger, and it had been 30 minutes, and I was like, he knows the bear. Kill me now. That was my
And then he called out the
attitude
tiger
at this
too. He goes,
point.
"Oh, that's an old tiger. He has no teeth. He would
Yeah, it was
only eat
awesome.
lizards or something."
Well, because the daughter's like my people. Well, because my father's a great hunter, right? We have these seeds of like it's like the reverse Tarzan thing, where it's like, oh, he is wise in his own way and he knows things about stuff, right? So like the bad guy's this great hunter, but it turns out, right, he's just killing mild-mannered bears, and the tiger that he claimed was actually not in like fighting.
Did you have any
form and all that
questions of
stuff.
what animals actually live in India during this?
I had
Did
those
it not
questions
seem
when
like
I watched.
every animal is in India?
I had those questions when I watched the original Jungle Book because I was too young to know what India was. And I was like, wait, how is there a bear from like the bear jungle, like forest bear in like the jungle where there's only tigers and lions and monkeys and all that stuff? What's going on or whatever?
Yeah, the bears,
And I
the
think
wolves, hyenas. I was like, are those things all in India?
There were so many animals. They had so many like
They were like white antelopes or something?
like B-roll nature shots, and they called them deer and they called
Yeah.
them whatever. Oh, we didn't talk about that. Really quick. Something that, so at first I was like, oh yeah, we're in darkest Africa. This is gonna be awesome, or like whatever, like those old movies or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, this is my man Sembene. Or whatever. I was like, oh, this is old school, goofy shit. Because the storyteller says that, like, tigers invented murder, and when as he, like sped away from like the first murder ever, the trees marked his yellow hide, and that's why tigers have stripes. I love stuff like that. I love like, oh, and then the god whatever pushed in the nose of like this animal, and that's why their faces look like that. Like, oh,
Yeah.
I love those like dumb stories, those like folk
They
tales
kept
of
saying
things or
yellow.
whatever.
I guess there was not the color orange at this time.
Or some, oh god, maybe. That's really funny. No, because like color names have actually changed and they're regional and all that stuff. But there's so much going on here where some of these, I don't know if any of these actors besides the main kid are even Indian, or if that kid's even Indian, or what's going on. I was like, do you just have like stuff smeared on your face? What are you? What's happening here? What am I watching?
Because there wasn't really an accent on a lot of characters,
No.
and you're like, huh, I wonder how
and
that
I'm like,
worked out.
is this
Did you
whitewashing?
notice
What is
the,
this appropriation?
I forgot the name
What's
now, but
happening
there were
here?
so many names of the same family in the opening credits.
Yeah.
I forgot the last name, but like Zoltan blah blah is the director, blah 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 is the producer, blah blah blah, like all the same last
So
name.
like if we had to Google something, it's Rudyard Kipling, and I've definitely heard Kipling. Like, oh, those old movies, those Kiplings, and like Zoltan whatever too. Those are names that I've heard around, just around like people jokingly or like seriously talking about old movies. They talk about like Lawrence of Arabia or like old, the old adventures, the serials from whatever or something. I think I've heard those names. Anyway, he goes out to the jungle with the lady.
He takes the lady, and like in like no time flat, minutes it seems, they're at this lost city that no one's ever seen before.
Exactly.
It is protected by the. And has he been there before?
I don't know.
Like it didn't seem like the play, because he meets what it seems like for the first time the wise king of cobras or whatever, the father of cobras, whatever he was called.
I never know if he's doing callbacks to his own childhood or if these are legendary creatures, but they have names and titles and all that stuff, right? It's like this known thing.
So the father of cobras, he like gets into a little wrestling match with him, and like he like puts his knife in his mouth. He goes, "He has no venom.
He's outlived his poison.
Yeah, he is no trouble." Blah 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 blah. And like tells him he's like about this ruby, and that brings only death. And the lady goes, "Can I keep one of these?" "Oh, you go ahead."
I know. So, like, that's the one, like, plot point to get out of this, right? I also have all caps notes, like, why does snakes get a voiceover? What is this? I'm a snake. Like, what's happening? What are you doing?
All snakes speak English.
And they have that weird, breathy voice. It's insane that
But it's not
even
made clear if she can hear him.
I know, and even, in, like, the 40s, the snake trope was still exactly the same. It's always been with us.
Yeah.
Humans have always thought snakes talk like that. When cavemen were telling stories and they had to voice a snake, I was always like this. It was always that sort of thing.
It makes sense.
It's insane to be like. I'm not saying that I have like a better solution. I'm just saying it's crazy to me because he talks to monkeys by going unts unts unts, and then he talks to the snake by speaking like you're saying. Suddenly the snake speaks English only, whatever. And if she can't if that's just for our benefit, why do you only do that with snakes? Why don't you do
Yeah, I
that
don't
with the
know.
elephants or the monkeys or like anyone else? Like, what are you
Cost
doing?
too much.
That was free. That was horrible.
Nah, there was a snake on a string, you see.
But you can just show the elephant going
No,
like this,
they wouldn't-
and then have a voiceover saying like, "We should kill the man tribe" or whatever.
They'd have to
and then he
put
goes,
peanut butter in
whatever.
their mouths and hope for the best.
like with that poor panther.
Yeah.
But that's our like plot point here is that this ruby. Oh, I've outlived my poison, but you know what the real poison is? Greed. And this
Yes.
and this ruby will like kill you more than a bite from me ever could, and all that
He says
stuff.
it's killed. That ruby's
Only it
killed more
takes-
than my whole family.
Yeah, I was gonna say like even though it took like 20 minutes to get that across, what I just said, that's like the thing that we're
Yes.
setting up for later, right?
So he puts it down, just like drops it on the ground, doesn't put it back where he got it because he's a bitch. And then he
Yeah, like, he like
takes her
pulled it
back,
out of something.
Yeah,
that
it was
like stored nicely.
exactly.
And then he just goes, "Pfft," put it down with the crap.
takes her back. She wakes up from like her nap. It's like the coin is still in her hand. The father sees it. He's like, what is this? Blah, blah, blah. Oh, is this something? I can't tell you. Something, blah, blah. Drops the coin. It like rolls down the stairs.
So like the comedy stuff with the barber and everything, I was like, now we're talking. Now there's something I can engage with in this movie. Because the whole thing where he sits down and he's like, move your left foot or whatever, I was like, oh, that's nice.
But now, like, out of the blue, like, the hunter has been established as like a main character.
Yeah.
Out of the blue now, we have man getting haircut and barber are now like the top tier
Yes.
actors of this
So
this
like
movie.
So like Barber also had one line back when they were going to plan the city, but
Yes.
since then we have obviously not. There'd be no reason to have him featured or whatever there, right? So there were plans in place, and now we have another dude, right, who was
Yes.
like, I'm not going to be showing like some sheep. I like that nice bantery because it's like old timey, but it's a nice
like,
back
it-
and forthy thing there.
Yeah, I didn't get into that part until like my second viewing. Like I think I stopped around like the 45-minute mark the first time, and I went back into it.
And the third interlude when we started
But
there.
no, this part I was like, all right, and I was like, what is this? Because at that point you're like, this is no longer anything I've ever known about the Jungle Book, so I'm in a total new movie now.
Has he killed the tiger yet? I don't
This
think
is
so,
no right
He's
then.
about to.
They see the tiger and they bring everything into it, and
Yeah.
Mowgli goes, I must go out and kill Shere Khan. I have my tooth now. I'm going to do it. And
Before we
then-
move on, though, real quick.
Sure.
When she wakes up, she's like, "I dreamed that I was a princess," and and she has the coin.
Yeah.
Her like shit-heeled dad is like, "Wake up! The fire's not lit, and there's no rice in here," or whatever.
Yeah.
And I thought that was an awesome old like horrible bossy like.
Oh yeah, the father
hey.
especially is a real shithead.
He's like, "Hey, snap to it. We gotta get the kettle on. Let's like, put some hustle and bustle here." Yes, but it's time to go.
Yes.
Like accomplish what again in like the Disney movie is the whole goal of the movie. And
Yeah.
Mowgli's younger, and he doesn't have a knife, and he has to use wits, and there's music, and it's fun.
Yeah.
Right. And this is just a young man with a knife who's like, "I'm gonna go kill an animal."
Yes.
It's time to go do that.
This is the only murder that's not for food that is acceptable because he is stopping somebody who is doing the same.
Right.
So he goes out.
They drew first blood stuff.
They drew first blood. He goes out to meet the legendary snake to get advice on how to kill Shere Khan.
A different snake.
Yes. By this time, it's been too long. The three men now greedy and wanting to know where the city is, say like, we will go find your son, and their
great.
only intention is to go find out where this place is.
And he says, I love him. I wish I had a boy like him. If he doesn't come back shortly, I'll hunt him to the ends of the earth."
Yes.
I was like, oh my god. Or track him or something.
And now
yeah.
it cuts back to Mowgli is teasing Shere Khan. He's like, "No, you come get me, bitch!" And he runs and jumps off a cliff.
Because the old snake gives him the advice that,
Yeah,
that all
bite him in
snakes
the
hate
water.
water, which is not true. Only good part about that, he's like, "Oh, the jackal told me before he passed away." Now he's here, and he motions to like his own
Yeah.
swollen body, and I was like, "Okay, that's cool. That's cool."
Yes. So he has him chase him. He jumps into the water, and I would wager that a tiger is much better at fighting on land than it is in the water. So I don't know if the advice is bad. It's not accurate the way he stated it, but I still think he probably had a better chance fighting in the water than on land, especially like with a knife and the intention to stab him. So they fight, and it seems like the snake does nothing. He moves when it first started, and I thought he was holding him so that Mowgli could stab him, but they never really show any of that. So it's all inferred.
I didn't even notice the snake in that scene. Let's put it
Oh
that
yeah,
way.
he's right at the bottom. Mowgli jumps right past him.
Yeah.
So it makes you think that he's going to do
He's gonna
something
do
about
something,
it.
yeah. But
but it doesn't.
I'm sure it did nothing.
Mowgli
'cause-
kills the tiger, drags him onto the beach, and like right then is when the great hunter comes up, and he's like you, blah blah blah. He's like I killed Shere Khan. He goes, you found him like that. He goes, no, I killed him with my tooth. He goes, don't you move.
And he says, like, who are you to tell me what's yours?
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, Jafar / Scar / every villain ever. You're the best.
And then we have our Black Panther friend, who I can't remember his name. Remember the Panther's name?
T'Challa.
What? No.
No, the Panthers.
They call him like
name
Brother
is-
Shadow, but he has a name.
No, his name is Bagheera or Nagira.
Something like that. He jumps down on him like seemingly in a blink of an eye, I guess, so that he thinks that he's turned into this Black Panther.
This I actually like, because this is dumb, but this is the kind of thing where like a legend might get started that someone could turn into something,
Sure.
or like control something or whatever.
She-Ra.
There you go.
So he does this. He goes, "Oh, please turn back! Don't spare me, and I
Spare
will,
my
I will,
life,
blah
yeah.
blah." And he's like, "Get out of here, boy!" And he's like, "Wake up!" And then like does turn on him almost
Oh.
immediately, and he's like, "He's a witch! Burn him!" Takes
Well,
him back.
Then goes back, starts fighting with his boys. So first he starts worshiping
Yes.
at Mowgli's feet, like you are the great Maharaja and all that stuff. And
Yeah,
then
he's faking it.
the two idiots come over and start doing it too, thinking, oh, he's like gonna lead us to like the lost city.
Uh-huh.
They go off and they start fighting because obviously still no one knows where the lost city is.
Yeah.
As if knowing somehow what to do, but doesn't, Mowgli sends Bagheera, Nagira, it's a B or an N, I'm not sure. Sends him off to like, hey, go break up their quarrel or something like that, which reinforces the idea that he can turn into
Yes.
a Black Panther, which they kept saying, and I was like, Wakanda forever, the whole time.
So they go back, and then what is the exact thing now? Now they tie him up. They're gonna
so
burn him.
He's mocking him with the tiger head, which just sets him off, where he goes
Yes.
like, okay, and like because everyone's like, whoa, what's this dude all about? They're primed and ready for him to be like, he's a witch, I told you, he has the evil eye, we never should let him in the village. He's,
Yes.
ah!
So they tie him up.
that's
They're gonna burn him.
They're like whipping him,
Yeah,
and like
pretty good.
and like preparing a like funeral pyre to burn him alive or something.
The mother goes in there. She sets him free. Then they like they tie up the mother. They're like, okay, now that he's free,
It was
we will
all a
follow him.
No, it was all a plan.
Why would he go to the lost city? Why would
Makes
that be
no
his
sense
thing?
at all.
But he does go, and he
will lead
leaves,
us right to the lost
He leaves
city.
tracks purposefully to get followed to the lost city. They get there. They're looking around. They find the
and
treasure.
at this point, it just becomes like I dropped the Cave of Wonders thing before, but I was in a Disney mood going into this, so I had to relate everything back to a Disney movie. And this is a lot of the Cave of Wonders type stuff. We have a bunch of treasure, and really, it is the greed in the hearts of men that is the most poisonous thing.
I did love, though, the Great Hunter sees the gold first, but he sees the King Cobra in there, and he's like, oh, fuck that. And he looks over, he's like, oh, la, 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 la. And he like waits till the
Oh, I
guy to
didn't
see it. He
catch
goes, oh, you start first. You go in first.
He's right. He gets first choice. First
Yeah.
choice.
And they kill the wise old Cobra, which I was like, huh, Mowgli let that happen.
Yeah, totally. He sat by him and let a cobra murder happen. And,
Yeah.
and I like when he shoots and like kills the snake. The other guy says to him like you missed him or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. But that's just foreshadowing for something that happens 3
The
minutes
way he
later.
says it, though, is very, he's like, you missed him.
Missed him. Yeah. No, it's great. No, I love that because like the bad guy is the reasonable one who's like, there's enough here for 3 people, for 300, for 3,000. Stop
Yes.
it. Let's just go. Or
I
whatever.
never took that as a sincere thing. I took it as
Yeah.
like, I'll kill you all when the time is right, but I need
Okay.
you all to fucking relax right now.
I'm okay with that too.
Yeah.
I don't know if they. Well,
3
do
people
they
can
ever-
carry more than one person, so that was my thought process there.
I could project that onto him, but I don't know based on all that happens if that's,
It's also
if that's
true,
the
though.
case.
There's so much gold there. It's ridiculous.
That's what I mean. Like at a certain point, I think he would even be.
The scale of the
Yeah.
making of this movie. Just picture that. Okay, we need to make like a den of treasure here. Yeah, I need coins. Well, how many? Like a fucking million. Like, what do you think what is that? Like, they're probably just like like wooden discs, spray painted gold or whatever. But
yeah.
but the amount of them, how many there are. It fills the frame. This is pre-CG. It's amazing how much stuff there is.
That's what I mean with like my like pre-budget thing or whatever. Whereas like
I couldn't
they
begin to
used to
guess.
just have because like paying a dude to make something was like not cheaper then, but that was just how it was done. So you just had a bunch of people and it was
Yeah.
like build the sets. We need fake tree stuff on the sides there, and they would just keep working until it was done, and
Yeah.
you pay them $12, whatever it was or whatever,
That's
which was
it.
more
It's-
than, but
it's
whatever. It's
crazy.
a whole math thing. Yeah.
Like, because they're in like villages and towns. There's like 50 fucking ox being herded through a thing,
Yeah.
chasing like 100 people up the wall to a like a priest's house or some bullshit. There's like old temples and all this shit where you're like, holy crap.
No, and
Very impressive.
And I wonder what the real money budget really was, and then how much it made, and if this was just how stuff went back then.
Well, it's still making money, so
Technically speaking, still making a small amount of money.
yeah. So they all get out, and one by one, because they found the ruby, they're nitpicking and fighting, and they kill each other.
So we get a bunch of stuff, right? Mowgli's watching from the trees.
He's like, right, it does
let's
make
see
it.
if it does. Yeah, exactly. And we have them doing all their stuff. The betrayal sets in. I like the main bad guy kind of being like, yeah, totally, you had to kill him, that's fine. Then just grabbing the treasure and being like, let's go.
Yeah.
And knowing that there's an issue but not really saying it. Like,
Yeah, the
right?
barber gets killed by the other guy. I was just going to look at it. He came at me. He just killed that guy like while he was sleeping.
You
pretty
must
much.
you must bear witness.
Then
and he doesn't say like you would expect. No, you killed him. I saw you kill him. We have to take care of this. They kind of let it hang. In a movie that states and like overstates so many things, they let this hang, which is like okay, cool. Because now they're walking and we're not sure if he knows, and he sees the reflection in the water. Sees him
like
going
about
for
to get him,
Yeah,
throws him into the water. The crocodile eats him.
Yep.
Slowly.
Stuck in his CG jaws. I'm sorry, animatronic jaws.
Yeah, it was interesting. And then he makes the trek home, where he's like gone mad.
So he's totally, and like this is the only point where I will actually be literally critical of like the sound and sound design.
Okay.
Because they're playing weird like loops, and I think it was meant to be disorientating, but it just sounded weird and bad to me.
Okay.
When he's going crazy, when he's like, I'll come back, I'll burn it all down, you can turn into whatever you want, change, and like running away and stuff like that. They're playing like weird monkey noises and like shrieks of parrots and different roars back and forth. But it just sounded very clunky and weird. It sounded very bad.
By this point, I was in a fever dream because it's
it's
like an hour and 45 minutes of like
because like
crazy old movie.
that happens after he like Tarzan swings on a vine, throws the scepter into the crocodile's mouth.
Yeah.
Which I internally time traveled back to being a kid. Changed it into a Disney movie, and like the crocodile's mouth bit down on the saber long ways, and like couldn't kill him or something, and it was like that scene. Only he literally just places it into its mouth. And
I
runs
took it
by
as he thought that was Mowgli. He's like, here, take it back. Just get the fuck away from me.
I get it. Here you go. Fine or whatever.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But then he gets back and he does, try to burn the whole fucking forest down.
Yeah.
They do have a village that is centered in the forest. And they even called, like, if the wind shifts there, we're going to lose everything. And like, he burns the forest. All the animals are running. The people are trying to get out of there. He does end up burning their village down. He kicks the man out of the woods. He gives it back to them. And then Mowgli goes right about his way of, like, I defend the jungle. I live in the jungle. Men, you go back to your villages, and I will stay here.
Yeah, there's a cool thing of, like, Mowgli telling them like, "Hey, girl, whose name I don't know and never knew, go where we saw the elephants. There's an island, where like it's it's separated by the river. You'll be safe there, or whatever." Okay, cool. So all the villagers get to go be safe there and all that stuff, right? This is a nice thing. We got to visit like the ruins and like what is a king? What happened to them? Oh, men, greedy, bad, or whatever. And then the same thing happens to this, right? Where in the beginning they said this will be a great city someday. We have to plan it out properly, and then it all falls prey to the same.
It's crazy because everything Mowgli was going to do, he had the elephants ready to knock down the walls. He's like, no, the village, the woods will take back the city, and then man's greed just knocked down their own fucking city. Yeah.
I think he said like kill them. Why do we kill them? We just have to do this or something.
Yeah.
Right? What was he? I don't know what their plan exactly was.
I think it was once the walls come down, the jungle will just take back the city. And that seemed to be what happened in the Lost City. The Lost City is overtaken by jungle, and it seems like something very similar to that happened there. Like it was a cyclical thing. Overall, I didn't think this was a bad movie. I do think it's dated because obviously it's from 1942. I enjoyed it. I think movies aren't done like this anymore, and I was more fascinated by just that it exists, that it was made. It just seems like such a feat that something like this could exist with the amount of wrangling of animals and people and sets and what it is and the time it was made. It's very impressive. I would recommend seeing it.
I had a lot of trouble getting into it, but I think, especially on my second fast viewing, I did start to get some feelings of like niceness from it or something like that. Because back in the day, a lot of those other movies that I'm talking about that had like the sound design or the dated quality, you'd watch them on cable, like as a kid on the TV or see some stuff or whatever. So it had that sort of vibe. I don't know if I would recommend it. I agree about all that stuff you're talking about or whatever with the things. So to compare it to like the Disney movie though, like it turns out, taking a story, adapting it, sticking in a bunch of songs and all that stuff, like the music in like the Disney movies is actually like
it's amazing.
A+, S rank music and stuff. So like compared to that, right? If you go into this thinking about the Disney movie, Baloo is mentioned but is like not in it.
Yes.
The snake doesn't even do the hypnosis stuff or any of that business or whatever. There's some monkeys and stuff, but there's not even a King Louie, which makes sense. But still, it's like there's nothing there either. Everything is centered around this other conflict. There's a whole other story built into the whole thing, which is not. I don't know.
Have you seen? I believe 1992 remake.
Okay, no.
That one was one of my favorite Disney movies, like of all time. Like it's super awesome. It has a lot of the things with this, where there is the Lost City, there is this and that, stuff like that.
It's a remake?
Yeah.
I saw like the sequel,
but it's more like a Tarzan, where he comes through and then he gets educated and raised like as an adult, like kind of like this.
Was it a sequel or was it a remake?
It's a remake.
Because there's a sequel that I saw. Because I have a much younger brother. And
this is live action, so it's not
okay. But it is Jungle Book.
It reminds.
I know the John.
Yeah, it's called The Jungle Book.
Jon Favreau, whoever did one that was supposed to be stunning CG, awesome Jungle Book.
That's 2016.
2016. Yeah.
I have that one as well.
Yeah.
We could do a whole series.
Do a whole Jungle Book cross analysis. Yeah.
But that one from I believe 1992.
I'd be interested in seeing that. Yeah.
It's like this cool thing where it's him, like he falls for this girl, but in that one the hunter's not her father, it's a rival competitor for her affection, and he wants to kill this jungle boy, and she's trying to teach this jungle boy, and it's like this whole thing.
Yeah, I think if nothing else, this made me like two things. It made me very curious about because you hear about stuff, right? Like, oh, in Beauty and the Beast really rapes her or something, or like, oh, in Sleeping Beauty he rapes her, in the actual French folk tale, it's actually she murders everyone in the town. Like you hear about all these fables and things that we know as like lovable song-filled Disney things. The real story is this brutal, horrible thing.
It's actually crazy how many things predate Disney that Disney gets 100% of the credit for, and
exactly.
owns them now. And you're like, how did you steal something and then own it?
Because they own like the Disney implementation of it, or
like
something.
The whole Lion King and
no
Kimba thing. Have you seen that? Like you're like, what the
That's
fuck?
The most egregious one or whatever, I think, or one of the most egregious ones. But that's the idea. Is like this made me even more curious about what is the original Jungle Book thing originally like the old? It must be this old.
This
Indian
is probably
story.
as close as we can get.
Yeah, but there's probably like an actual story, an actual written thing, or someone has broken down like here's how these are different. But that segues into number 2, which is I only knew about the 2016 one and the original Disney one. So like I'm most shocked that this exists and that I've literally never heard of it.
Sure.
Like there was, because like with everything else, everyone's like, oh, you like the thing with Kurt Russell? Well, there was another thing. It was black and white. It's so old. Or like everyone's always pointing out, oh, that's just a remake of this, or that's just another thing of that, or whatever. But no one had ever mentioned this during my entire life. And
that's why when I saw it, I was like, I gotta buy this.
I loved the Disney movie growing up, so like this was a great thing to see. Another version or another like view into it, right?
I definitely got to make you watch the 90s version.
Hell yeah, we should watch them all.
I have multiple copies of that VHS because I've bought it, and then when I've seen it, I'm like, oh man, that, and I bought it again.
Oh man, I can't wait to. Now I'm excited to watch it.
Maybe next week. We'll see. But yeah, that's pretty much the consensus of
we're
what happens
basically
in
done.
this movie.
Like we said, the storyteller was the hunter, which seemed to be for no reason.
What was for no reason was the white lady.
Okay.
She was literally for no reason.
Yeah, there was a charming thing where he's like, "Oh, if you took my picture, you would have all of India in your eyes, in these eyes." And then she's like, "Okay, I'll pay," or whatever, like that whole thing. But no, I like to have the storyteller be the main like bad guy who's now like regretful
reformed.
about the story. That's an interesting concept. They didn't do anything with it.
Didn't, yeah,
but it's an interesting
it's a good
concept. Whatever.
I imagine just real quick before we end. I think
Yeah.
the Jungle Book is literally a thing that just like the opening was like he's like and there was Baloo blah 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 blah. I think the Jungle Book is just a book back in the day that would tell you about animals.
Oh really?
And maybe there was a thing about Mowgli, about a boy raised by wolves, and that is the full thing that has been extrapolated
And it's
into
all
these movies.
extrapolations?
I think
Okay.
so.
Yeah, because a lot of this, like, I kept mentioning Aladdin, but, like, I figured the Jungle Book was like the Arabian Nights or, like, one of these tales where it was a bunch of short things or something.
It might be.
And people have cherry-picked and crafted a tale, around them. But we'll do more research and find out.
Alright guys, thanks for watching. Let us know in the comments below what you thought about it. Don't die in a fire, and we'll see you next time.
If you want to support the show, head over to cannibalvideo.com, pick up some merch.
And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button.
That's alright.
Yeah, that's something.
Whatever.
Fuck these motherfuckers.